Monday edition of September 25th of the Great Talk with Martin and Dan. And
hold on, you sound like you don't believe that this is Great Talk.
No, it is. Sometimes it's okay, sometimes it's good, but we call it Great Talk. I don't know if we ever get to that. I'm not sure if we ever ascend to that level of Great Talk. I'd like to think we do, but I'm not so sure.
Well, let's let the listeners decide. Call in, right? Willie, will you? Oh, the phones are down. Willie, could you get the phones fixed? We want people to call in. Dan, what a great sports weekend. You probably played like 4,800 holes of golf.
I did play some golf.
Can I tell you, on Saturday night, so I had to work a little bit.
I have a vested interest in certain college football games.
Oh, okay.
Just a big fan.
You're a loyal fan of the game. You love the grand game.
Love the beauty of the game, Martin.
Can I tell you, I'm sitting at work Saturday night. So I went down a little bit of the Mizzou pregame tailgate. I kind of wanted to see the flavor. It was great seeing people downtown. They ended up with about 45,000, which was not bad. What I was told is that when Illinois played Mizzou, Illinois would sell 20, 30,000 tickets on their own. Memphis sold about 2,000. So it was obviously it was a Mizzou crowd, which we knew. But I get into the station, and now City is on one monitor. They're playing up in Minnesota, and that was an exciting game. They're playing in the rain. So that's on a monitor. Mizzou's on another monitor. Ohio State is driving late against Notre Dame.
What a football game.
And then the next monitor is the Cardinals. And I looked up, and a guy named Irving Lopez was batting. And I thought, what in the hell has happened here? Because I said to myself,
is he a member of the Cardinals?
Yeah, he's on the team.
Okay.
He sounds like a playwright. Irving Lopez presents. But I looked up and I thought, this Ohio State Notre Dame, you got to watch that.
Oh, yeah.
Mizzou fans are probably plugged in on this. I said soccer fans. And I said, now I got a guy over here named Irving Lopez.
It's hard to believe late September that the attention, and rightfully so, is moved to other aspects of sports. The one thing about the Mizzou game, the presentation on television wasn't great. And I'm not talking about the announcers. I'm not talking about their production. What I mean is, I need to rephrase it. The view, the actual the turf.
The way the dome looks.
Yeah, the dome did not look good. It looked dark. The turf looked dark, beat up. I just thought it didn't look great.
Well, the dome's always had sort of that orange color. I can't quite figure it out.
Yeah.
Every stand-up we ever did after a game, you kind of would say, am I orange? And like, well, my makeup is kind of orange. But the dome, and I did a commentary last week saying, like, give the dome some credit because without it, you don't get a team. It has allowed you to have the Rolling Stones and Beyonce and it served its purpose. It's really hard to dust it off and make it great.
I agree.
No, but I think it's true. It never looks great on TV. It's aged a bunch. We know that. There's no reason to put a lot of money into it at this point. And then the turf is new. It only had one season, 2015, with the Rams. But it doesn't seem to like sit well or something.
Just very dark, I noticed.
Yeah, I think that's
it just looked beat up.
The building's drab. It always had. Even when the Rams were good, the building was great because the Rams were good. But the hallways always felt just kind of generic.
Stale.
I would hire like an interior designer. What colors could we splash on the wall?
Look, I'm not trying to be Debbie Downer because they
won.
You
are. Mizzou's ranked, and Dan wants to talk about the lighting.
They won the game. Brady Cook played well. Luther Burden played well. A lot of St. Louis area kids are on the field, so that was great. I saw you complaining that Brady Cook was not allowed to visit with the local media. You were upset about it.
Well, and I don't want to get too deep into it because it doesn't really matter. And people
don't care about the media getting an interview.
Here's
but
why,
you want to hear from that kid.
Well, here's why I think it was more notable than ever. First of all, every football game I've ever covered, NFL, college, the quarterback talks. Sometimes I've seen Warner really beat up. They talk. It's normal. I was not down there, but people that were covering it, including my guy Daniel Esteve, they said, it was great. They got video of Cook high-fiving fans. He's taking pictures. He's walking off. It was a great night. St. Louis
and you
kid.
Want to see that.
For sure.
I agree.
So that's the optics, and then they go into the media room, and Mizzou announces Brady Cook unavailable. He has treatment. And everyone there had the same thought. We'll wait. He can have understood. Treatment comes first. His health comes first, for sure. But they said he's unavailable. And then you say, well, maybe he's just feeling beat up. I think he was pretty beat up, and maybe his shoulders bothered him, and maybe they had to give him a shot or two. Who knows? So that's fine. Then they're walking out, and he's doing an interview with Frank Cusimano in the hallway. So everybody said, well, which is it? Either he's unavailable or he's not. That's really the whole story. That's why if they just said he's not talking, I wouldn't, and I'm not mad
and
at
I
him.
imagine the kid wants to talk. He's back home in
His
St. Louis.
hometown. So the reason it made me crazy is because this is the same guy that the coach has been saying, get off his ass. He's a St. Louis kid. Hey, all week they said, we're coming to St. Louis. This is about the St. Louis kids. And Brady Cook throws for 345. He's high-fiving fans. He's doing an interview with Cusimano, and then they tell the room, yeah, he's unavailable. It just was a really bad look. And I heard from some Mizzou people who said it was a mistake. And I also heard from some people who I think are related to Brady who said, you don't understand, Martin, who direct messaged me and said he was really beat up. He wasn't feeling great. I said, I understand
his knee
that.
and his shoulders, throwing
I
arm.
think he got beat up pretty good. I don't doubt that at all. But I said, if he hadn't done, and it's not about Frank. I'm sure Frank knows the family or the kid, which is fine. But I said, that tells me he's either willing or capable. And even if I'm Mizzou, I say, listen, hey, can we keep this pretty short, guys? He's not feeling great. He's pretty beat up. He'll give you a couple answers.
Sure.
This is a great day for him. He'll never play in St. Louis again. This is the one time where he gets this big opportunity.
Battlehawks.
Well, we can dream. We dream big.
Just saying.
So anyway, it doesn't matter. The people at home, I just felt like for him, this was his moment.
Yeah.
He deserved a victory lap of sorts, and it would have been everywhere because not just St. Louis TV and Columbia, Kansas City. He deserved his kudos.
One of the things he's done, he's changed the narrative of just a guy that's dumping it off to a back in the, check. Now he just dumps it off right side, left side, and then let that kid make a play. He's starting to throw it downfield. I'm not, Mike Martz here, but he is.
Are you Joel Bushbaum?
I'm not. My favorite Joel Bushbaum is.
I knew I could get you off.
Because I used to produce the show, and then I hosted the show, and I asked him about Tony Banks, and he said, unfortunately, he's not as swift upstairs as he is downstairs.
I think you just gave Joel Bushbaum a speech impediment.
Then
he had the great, for the kids listening, Joel Bushbaum was on KMOX every Monday night and would break down pro football like nobody else.
You could give him any name. I'm serious, Martin. You could give him any name, and he was the third backup at tackle at Middle Tennessee State, and he would know who the guy. I'm dead serious. He would know who he is.
My favorite part is he would get kind of animated. He's like, the Chargers are going to have to run the ball, and if they don't run the ball, they're just not going to win. They can't win. Like, he would get himself kind of animated about his own points.
Somebody
went to see him, right, in New York.
Oh, there's a picture of him.
And he just had stacks and stacks and stacks of VHS tapes.
It looks like he hadn't eaten in days.
Right.
Very thin,
kind
malnutrition,
Yeah, a skinny guy who consumed not a lot of calories, but a lot of football.
Yes, he did.
But he was so good. The thing about the Rams, I'm going impediment a little bit. He had the great New York sound. We need somebody to come in here. Willie, get Joe Bushbaum imitators on the line.
He did one where we were talking on a Monday night. I'm hosting the show, and I said, there's reports that this guy is upset because his dog passed away. And I said, boy, that's kind of amazing. NFL football player going into Monday night or whatever, and he's mentally disturbed over the fact that he has lost his dog, and which I can understand. You have a love affair with your dog. You love your pets, that kind of thing. Well, he says, I can completely understand it, the affinity for a dog, and once that dog passes, it's very, very tough to get over. It's okay. So I was
he even breaks down a dog.
Well, I just thought, it sucks to lose an animal.
For sure. Can I tell you?
I get it. But hold on, Martin. Okay. I get it. But I was just shocked that it would affect his play on a Monday night.
Right. And you're surprised maybe that Joel kind of sympathized.
He did, totally.
With that point. So in 2008, after the fourth game, the Rams fired Scott Linehan. And we had reported Sunday night it was possible. But that morning, a player that I was friendly with texted me and said, hey, they just fired Linehan. So I was like, oh, man, I got to get on it. And I call out there to somebody I was pretty tight with, and I said, hey, I heard Linehan got fired. And the person said, yeah, he did. I'm sorry. And I said, are you crying? And he said, what? It's just been a really hard day. And I said,
it's the business, man.
I said, you didn't even like Linehan. He goes, what? He goes, oh, no. Sorry, because my wife just called. We had to put our dog down.
Oh, yeah.
And I go,
that makes sense.
I'm like, now I know why. Yes. And he goes, yeah. I go, well, I was just trying to confirm. He goes, yeah. Linehan got fired. He said, I'm sorry, I got to call my wife back about the dog. And I said, that's why he was crying.
I could not. I'm a bad person for this. There's a lot of things that I'm bad for, but this is bad. We have 3 dogs, but we've always had
multiple. LaRussa? You got 3 dogs?
3 dogs. At one point, we had 3 dogs and a cat, but we have 3 dogs, and probably about 7 or 8 years ago, we had to put one of our dogs down. We have a new one now, so 3 total. I couldn't do it. My wife had to do it.
Oh, wow.
I said, I can't do this. It's too hard on me. And so I'm a bad guy. I didn't go. I made her do it.
Wow. Well, I had to do it with one of our dogs. I was there for it. And they have companies now that come in, and it's almost like hospice for a dog. It's kind of a weird deal, but
I couldn't do it. No way. Too tough.
Sounds like Dan's got a 3-dog night.
I do have a 3-legged dog.
Do you really?
I do. Yeah, we found a dog. My son found it in a rural area. We were fishing, and the dog was a very young puppy at the time, in skin and bones, and was limping and was in a trap for a raccoon, like a raccoon trap around a trash can. He went up and found it, brought it back, and he said, "Dad, we got to keep this." And I said, we're not going to keep this dog, but we'll give it to the Humane Society. He starts crying. I'm like, oh, Jesus. So we got to keep the dog. And the dog had been hit by a car, I would assume, and its back right leg was damaged so badly. We took it into the vet, and he said, "Oh, don't worry about it. We'll just amputate the leg. He won't even know it's gone." He is my strongest dog now. He's my fastest dog, and a little unknown fact is that he can pee doing a handstand. I'm dead serious.
Hold on. Doing a handstand.
He'll get up on his front legs
and take a leak?
Well,
you could go viral with that crap.
He did it the other day, and I was looking for my phone. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he's stronger than hell.
I would love to come by just to see that.
It's unbelievable. I go, the first
you don't even
time
have to let me in the house. Just show me where the dog is.
The first time I saw it, I said to my wife,
He's
doing a handstand.
So he's on a handstand. And
he'll lift himself up and lets it rip.
Let's rip. I don't really know where we're going to go from there, Dan.
Yeah.
So, by the way, media critique, of course, people hate when they do it, so I'm moving on from that. But I noticed Ryan Day, Ohio State, wins the Notre Dame game.
How about that post-game interview?
And he goes right after Lou Holtz.
Who's, 88?
I think he's 86, but same idea. And Lou Holtz on Friday on ESPN, this Notre Dame team is going to clean up against Ohio State. Ohio State can't block. They're not tough enough. He does this whole diatribe.
Yeah.
My point is, and I said this
about... The big part he said is they're not tough enough.
Right, which ticked him off.
Yeah.
But I've said this about Deion Sanders. Don't make that the whole focus. Cash in your receipts. Ryan, a great win. Our kids are tough as net. And then maybe later in your post-game podium, like, hey, by the way.
I heard some things.
Yeah, but he was like the first thing. I'm like, don't let the 86-year-old Lou Holtz get in your head. But I would rather say enjoy that moment for your kids.
And he was at Notre Dame Stadium because they were honoring the 1988 national championship team. So he was on site.
Tony Rice was the best quarterback we've ever
Tony Rice.
He's
a good player,
Wasn't he the quarterback?
Oh, yeah. He's a good player. They ran that option.
Was Ricky Waters later, I want to say?
No, I think Tony Rice, Ricky Waters.
Yeah, I can't remember, Dan. I think they
he
might
went
overlap
to
a little
Southern high school.
Speaking of impressions and Deion, on the radio show this week, I'll get it out on the podcast, you know the guy Joey Mulinaro, who does the best Nick Saban.
Yeah.
And then last week he rolled out the conversation of Deion talking to Nick Saban. I looked at it; it's got like 10 million views. Joey is going to be at Helium Club in St. Louis on Thursday night, and I'm going to have him on the radio this week. We'll put it on the podcast because he is really funny. And
is he coming in studio to do that?
No, they'll be over the phone, and he's coming to town on Thursday. But his other impressions are not name specific. For people who haven't seen it, you got to check it out. I think it's at Joey on Twitter. He's got millions and millions of views.
Joey Mulinaro. It's got 8.4 million views right now.
Him pretending to be Deion and Nick Saban.
It's awesome.
But he also does ones that are not superstars or people. It's just generic, like high school coach at halftime, high school coach kicking off summer camp. Like,
sure.
And he's got the bike pants pulled up and the whistle. Right. Like, we're going to kick their butts this year. All right. Like, he just does stereotypical coach stuff, which is absolute. I want to ask him if he played high school football or where the inspiration for all of this is.
So is that his – at first I thought it was just some guy that could imitate him, and then they put a little, 60-second vignette out of him doing Saban, but now it's kind of professionally done where it cuts to Dion, then it cuts to Saban, back and forth. I wonder if it just started where he put it on Twitter. I'd be interested if you can find this out.
You're talking like production value?
Yeah,
or?
So he just throws it out there, and then all of a sudden people go nuts over it. He's like, I can do something with this.
How did it start?
Yeah.
Right? No, that's a good question. Was he a comedian? Was he a radio guy? When did it kick in? I know Barstool hired him at one point because he had become so popular on Twitter, and I think now he does radio appearances. I think now he's just a full-time comedian.
How about Dave Portnoy with what he did?
We turned it all around on that, and I'm not a
Washington Post.
I know Barstool is huge. I don't follow all their stuff, but Washington Post was going to do a story on him, and he gets the female reporter on the phone. It says, "Hey, you were going to meet with me. You're going to write all this terrible." He said, "I got a copy of the email you're sending people
to my sponsors."
Yeah, saying I'm a terrible person.
I love it. I love what he did.
Well, and if you're a reporter and you're going after somebody, that's fine, but you got to be able to back it up.
Absolutely.
On that call, the reporter melted. And then later he said they had a set up an interview.
10 a.m.
And he said they canceled the meeting time. I noticed Don Van Natta, who's an ESPN, he's like a investigative reporter, does like real in-depth, like serious digging stories. He tweeted out, aspiring journalists, don't do this. If you have it, you're writing a story and that source wants to meet, you meet with them. Don't change the time. Like, don't monkey around with the logistics of it. Follow through. Yeah, so Portnoy, whether you like him or not, he owned that person. He owned that story, because if you're just owning the truth, like, hey, I'm right here, come talk to me, hey, and the reporter's like, yeah, we didn't really need to hear from you just yet, or
well, if you like him or not, and I happen to really enjoy what he does, and some of it is off color, whatever, I don't care. But what gained my attention and what I gained respect for him for is, and some people say, well, I don't respect him for this, that, and whatever. The thing that
I think, to be fair, I think what people bring up is there's a lot of sexual harassment allegations.
Okay, so this
is from his staff or something. I don't know all of it. I don't think he's ever been charged with anything.
I don't know.
But that's what people. I'm just saying that's what people will bring up. I don't want to gloss over that. I don't know any of the particulars, although there have been people who have spoken out about that.
The only thing that I really followed with him, and occasionally I'll check in with Barstool, but during COVID, what he did for small businesses and pizzerias and all that kind of stuff was nothing short of remarkable. I mean, millions of dollars that he raised to keep businesses afloat. So
for sure.
Ultimate respect in that regard of what he's done.
And if you are a reporter, you should be able to back it up. I can tell, and not all of my stories are Rams and Linehan related, Dan, but there was a coach's show on a Monday night. Rams had lost, and on that same night, there was like a bar fight downtown, and there was a couple of rookies involved. So now on Monday night, we're doing the coach's show, and we're doing it live from Isaac Bruce's charity. That was how it was set up, in advance.
So hold on, did the fight get made public?
Yeah, it was in the paper.
Okay, I got you.
And so Dominic Byrd, who was a rookie from USC, tight end, had like hit somebody over the head with a beer bottle. I mean, it wasn't great, but it wasn't horrific. So it's a question in the show. I'm going to say to the coach, and I had called Jay Zygmunt on the way out to the show. He's the team president, and I said, what's your official? He said, we've contacted the league. They're going to advise us in terms of proper punishment, all these things. So we get out there to do the show, and as you know, every show has a rundown. First segment, third, second, third. First two segments were going to be about the game that they had lost. Hey, coach, what happened on this play? Hey, Bolger played well here. What'd you think? Okay, real quick, what are your thoughts on, are you going to have discipline for we've heard from Jay, and all these things are built in. Segment 3 and 4, all about Isaac Bruce, fluff. It's a charity event, great player, first year for Linehan coaching this great player. So it was built in a certain way that it would turn a little more positive as these coaches shows, or when you are partners with the team. And I know it's frustrating at times for the viewer because it can get fluffish, but the hard stuff was coming early. Coach is stuck in traffic. He's not there. I got to do the show. The first two segments, we altered it. We just did all Isaac Bruce. It was a big love fest.
Yeah.
Hey, Isaac, hey, great career. What's your favorite catch, favorite memory? Hey, thanks for being here. Okay, coach is here. And then coach comes. It's like, you guys lost again. Boy, how about all those interceptions? What happened? And then in the break, before the last segment, I said, I'm going to ask you about, I said, if you don't want to talk about it, I can say I talked to Jay. And he goes, no, it's fine. He said, you ask me whatever. We do the whole show, no problem. I get in my car. I have a voicemail. And I'll say, it doesn't matter. His name is Jeff Horton. He's a longtime coach. and he was Linehan's like personal assistant or something. They'd known each other forever. And he leaves me this scathing voicemail. It's Jeff Horton, Scott Linehan's staff. How dare you go on that show, ask him all that bullshit and all that. It's his show, not your show. You had no right. You're talking to Isaac Bruce, having all this fun and giggles. Then you get Coach on there and you hammer and whatever. So I called him back. I said, this is Martin Kilcoyne. You call me back. I said, you are out of line. I said, you call Scott Linehan. You ask him if he knew what was coming. He has right of first refusal. I would never do that without his permission. I'd already talked to Jay. I said, the show was supposed to be all fluffy at the end. He wasn't there. What do you want me to do? Guy never called me back. And I see him at Rams Park that week. And I went up to him and I said, hey, Jeff, I know you have my number. I said, call me anytime. And I said, why don't you go ask Scott how that show played out? Said, yeah, we're good. It's all good. And I said, no, go ask him about. I was so effing pissed off. I'm still mad talking about it.
You are. It's as fired up as I get you.
I'm still mad talking about it. And I called some of the higher-ups there, and I said, you tell that MF. I was so pissed.
Yeah.
And because I'd been around for a while, and I'm like, this guy on this shitty staff is going to call me out. I was like.
Exactly.
So if you have the truth behind you, which you can always back it up. And if you're a good reporter, that reporter should have said, hey, Dave, thanks for calling me. I would love nothing better than to ask you some questions because I've got 3 people who told me this about you. I've got 4 people who said this. Some have been positive, some have been negative. Do you want to go on the record right now? I can start my record. Why wouldn't you do that unless you had an agenda that you didn't want to hear from that person?
I'm going to switch gears.
Thank you. I am so pissed still about that.
That's why I got to switch it to something else.
Sorry.
You may be
this is a family show.
You may be upset about this. You're wearing a CBC alumni open shirt. I think
no.
The cadets take it on the chin?
Oh, they got – and here's what's even worse.
DeSmet, wasn't it?
DeSmet hammered, and congrats to the Spartans. That's not what made it worse. I usually am off on Friday nights, but I had to do the prep.
You had to report it.
I hosted the prep zone Friday night. So our main big game is CBC DeSmet, and that should be a great game. 2 perennial powers. For a minute there, DeSmet had kind of started to rise up, like winning state titles, and then back to CBC, more of the dominant program, but it's close. Should have been a great game. And I looked down, and the great thing about working Friday nights on Twitter, you can see all the scores throughout the whole night. It was like 35-7 in the second quarter. I'm like, they had a running clock. No, congrats to the Spartans who just – I think CBC had a ton of picks and interceptions early, but it was a terrible game. But I love that high school – the vibe on Friday nights and kicking it out and getting some highlights. I mean, I wish we could get to 30 games. I wish we could cover them all.
So you mentioned that when you walked into Fox 2, you got City SC, you had Notre Dame, Ohio State, you got Mizzou, you got the Cardinals, and we haven't even talked about the fact that the Blues opened up training camp. That's another part of this landscape of sports that's transitioning into fall, which I think anybody, no matter what, if your team is supposed to be bad, good, and different, you're still excited to see the very beginning of any season of any sport. So I'm looking forward to seeing the Blues. And I was looking at pictures that they took. I guess they had like a doubleheader split squad, if you want to call it that, against Phoenix. The crowds look pretty good. They look pretty good for preseason action for the St. Louis Blues, and I love how training camp works. Guys go out there on the ice. Okay, here's some defensive pairings. This is who's up front. Okay, tomorrow we got a game.
Yes, it's unbelievable.
It's unreal.
They started camp Thursday. By Saturday, they had 2 games. Now think about the NFL. They have like 3.5 weeks of lining up. The best part of the Blues weekend, so they played Arizona on Saturday, as you mentioned, at home at 2 o'clock.
Did I say Phoenix?
Yeah, it's all the same.
Okay, whatever.
Blues and Coyotes. By the way, they play in Tempe at ASU's home stadium.
I know.
5,000 people. This is an NHL franchise. But they played Arizona at home Saturday afternoon. Then they played an Arizona squad that night in Wichita. At the same time, Arizona has a team in Australia.
Yeah.
Part of this NHL opening weekend, the Kings and Coyotes had a thing down in Australia. I said, how many players do the Coyotes have? How can they have a game in Australia and then they have 2 squads playing? They're barely an NHL franchise, and now they're playing 3 games over the course of the weekend.
It's hard to imagine that you'd have that many players to play competitively. And you do have your prospects and your rookies, and then you can return them to various places across the country and up in Canada, across North America. But still, it's a lot of players you got to fill. And then you got to figure out, what team goes where?
Right.
And who are we going to pair this guy up with? And I want to get more of a look at Martin. So am I going to play him in this game? It's going to be more competitive. He's got a chance to win a spot on a roster. All that stuff is kind of fascinating to me.
Well, and I noticed the home game, Thomas, Kyrou, Buchnevich all played.
Yep.
You got your home fans spending a little bit of money to come to a preseason game. You better give them something. And then the Wichita game, there are a couple of name guys, but not a ton. And I think you want to be fair to every audience.
So in baseball, when you travel in a spring training game, I think you're supposed to have, quote-unquote, 5 or 6 regulars in your lineup.
They can come out early, but they got to be in the lineup.
They got to be in the lineup. Now, that's got a lot of gray area.
The Cardinals don't
it.
even have that now.
Well, the lineup is something else. I looked at it the other day.
Spring training lineup right now.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah, I think Palacios might start hitting cleanup.
He is probably made the team.
Oh yeah,
next year, or at least a long look at spring training.
And he's perfect because you have so many guys that are they starters? Are they not starters? He's not a starter. It's fine, totally fine. Perfect bench guy, can do a little bit of everything. We have too many other guys who are kind of starters but might not be starters. He's not. He's a bench guy. He's perfect for that scenario. He's actually a lot of fun to talk to as well. From Brooklyn, his brother's on the Pirates.
Yeah.
It's just it's a good story.
I got a busy day today, Marty.
Are you telling me you're going to get going here? Are you wrapping me up?
No,
we didn't
not
mention
yet.
City Soccer. Great win.
I'm not wrapping you up.
Oh.
I
did you want me to ask you about your day?
No, it's just off the.
What was that supposed to mean?
Just stream of consciousness. I was thinking about what I have today.
Are you not present in this conversation?
I'm very present, but I was thinking about I got to MC an event today and play in the Father Bob Golf Tournament, which benefits St. Louis Catholic Academy. So a lot of underprivileged kids get a chance to gain a scholarship or go to school that normally wouldn't have that opportunity. And so looking forward to that. We've done this for many, many years.
When is your tournament?
October 9th, and that goes to the
2 weeks from now?
Special Education Foundation, yes.
Okay. We got to get out there for that. That's great. Is that at Norwood?
That's in Norwood, yeah.
October 9th.
We have sold it out again.
That's probably why they didn't ask me to play. Willie, I guess they're full. I guess they don't have a spot.
If you want a spot, we'll find a spot for you. But today
it sounds like a really warm invite. We'll find a spot for you.
Well, I mean, so today's Algonquin, and then 2 weeks from now is Norwood. And I asked the other, we had a meeting about it, and I said, how much money have we raised already? And they're like, over $300,000. I said, without hitting the ball? Wow. And they're like, yeah.
Wow.
So I'm very thankful to all the people that come out every single year, and this will be the 21st year that we do that.
Well, looking forward to Dan's busy day.
Yeah.
Now, I just wanted to plug City because they've tied the MLS expansion record
incredible
for wins with their 16th, if I'm getting that right. And then they still have 4 to go, 3 or 4 to go, and they could break the record for
a playoff game at home, man.
Yeah, that in the first round, for whatever reason, is best of 3, and you'd be home, away, home. That's going to be incredible. Then it's single elimination after that, but they're really close to wrapping up the top spot in the West. So, and I had Taylor Twellman on radio last week. He said, there are more talented teams. He said, especially in the East. He said, but if you give them home field, he said, I wouldn't rule anything out. He said, he goes, I don't think they have the best roster. They're very good. He said, but if they're at home,
it's hard to get an opinion out of Taylor too.
Right.
He's instant offense.
He is in. Our buddy Nick Ragone says when he's on the radio himself, on the radio.
Yeah.
Nick was talking about himself. He likes to attack the mic. And he grew up in New York. And I said, you probably listen to Mad Dog and those guys. Attack the mic. Taylor Twellman attacks the mic.
Times 2. Times a million, maybe.
Bringing the heat. I had a quick follow-up for you, Dan. Last week was the case of the missing debit card. I told you I was getting air in my tire, and 5 people got free air because I left my debit card in there. So a couple days after that, I get a picture from somebody I know, and it's just a picture of my debit card. And I said, whoa, and I called. I said, what? And they said, you're never going to believe this. You know who has it? Jamie Allman. And I said,
what?
Jamie Allman? Apparently, he
MAC.
I had been at the MAC. He had been at the MAC.
Yep.
I went to get air in my tires. It was last Sunday. He had to put air in his tire. He goes out there.
That is as random as it gets.
And I don't know if it was an hour later or 2 hours later or whatever it was, and he's trying to put his card in, and it won't go in because there's one stuck in there that everybody else was using. He pulls it out and says, oh my God, it's Kilcoyne. I could give it to him in the steam room.
That's awesome.
So, and then I'd get a text from Allman, said, hey, I heard you found out. I got your, I said, just throw it away. I've already canceled it. I said,
that's an unbelievable story. That's once in a million.
How small is St. Louis, right?
Yeah, I was thinking that too. But that's 1 in a million that happens like that. That's good, though.
Hey, I got a busy day too, Dan, but Pasta House, if you're busy, hey, just order online. PastaHouse.com or go to any of those 19 area locations. Manchester, Woodlawn, that's the newest location at the intersection of Manchester and Woodlawn. Everything there is made fresh daily. It's just great food. And it's some Monday I'm going to bring in, it's a little early for pasta, but I might bring in a meal.
Always a time for pasta.
I could eat a plate right now. I'm not going to lie. Pasta House Studios, of course, Triad Bank, our buddies over at Marie de Villa Senior Living, and Appliance Discounters.
Lou Fuse Automotive Group, and don't forget about Fuse Athletic. Martin mentioned.
Our lacrosse season starts soon.
Yep.
I'll be out there every weekend.
Me too. Triad Bank. Don't forget about doing your banking needs, as Martin mentioned. Jim Regna and his crew do a fabulous job. If you have a special somebody in your life and you need to get jewelry, Lordo's Diamonds, and we mentioned also the Ascension Charity Classic, and I kept saying before you know it, it'll be here. It's going to be a while. It's going to be till next summer.
Yeah, we won't say that yet.
Yeah, but
we're still in the afterglow. The next big thing is handing out the money.
That's right.
How much did they raise?
I think it's going to be around 1.5.
Wow.
So it's gone
unbelievable for a senior golf event.
It's just fun. I took in every day of the Ascension this year, and it was a blast.
All right, here's my last nugget note. This is a great line. So the Bears are terrible. All my Chicago friends and Mike Martz.
I watched the game yesterday. It was terrible.
And Fox 2 loved it because we had the Chiefs, but the game was terrible.
Yeah.
The game was terrible. Although Taylor Swift stole all the headlines because she and Kelsey are dating. So people are going nuts about that. But Mike Martz has said when he worked up there with Lovey, he said there's nothing quite like how Chicago rallies around that team. And Sundays in Chicago, as popular as the Cubs are, Hawks, Bulls, all of that, they're Bears, number one. Everything's Bears. They're so bad. My friends up there are just like, what are we going to do? Our team's terrible again. This is the line that I really liked. Dave Kaplan, longtime guy up there, media guy.
A civil.
He said, this team is a civic embarrassment.
Civil.
And I said, that is the ultimate cut on your local team when you say they've elevated to civic embarrassment.
Yeah.
Like the Rams were for a few years. But the Bears are officially a civic embarrassment. I just thought that was the most cutting line you could use, the most hurtful, hey, you guys are bad. No. You're worse than that. You're a civic embarrassment.
And this has been
a great talk.